Anyway, so what I want to show you here is from left to right in this grid that I made up here is how to take one color, in this case raw umber, and change the value of the color, okay? By keeping the same air pressure, but just staying in the box longer as I get darker, okay? And then moving differently too. And you're going to learn this very quickly if you practice this, right? Like you'll never be able to pick up an airbrush and then just master it. You can't. You have to practice. It's like anything else, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on a little bit of paint, but I'm going to lube up the tip first. I'm going to shoot a bit just to get the tip wet. Okay, I'm going to press down air and just going to squeeze. I'm just thinking in my mind, okay, I want a little bit of paint. I want the paint to come now, see? Right? That's just a fundamental that happens with everything. It happens with any motor skill or anything that you do in a tactile sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start really light here. I'm going to just get a little bit of paint going, right? And then I'm just going to move it back and forth like this. And I'm going to keep the paint, like I'm going to lock my paint and air into one position, okay? And then I'm going to come into the second box here, but this time I'm going to stay a little bit longer in the box, okay? Don't worry about the build-up on each end. We'll talk about that later. Okay, and then I'm going to come into this box and I'm going to go a little bit longer in here so it's a little bit darker. Okay? I'm going to come in this box and I'm going to stay even longer. It's pretty much the same amount of paint, but I'm just staying back and forth. Notice how fast I'm moving back and forth, just like a pencil or a felt pen, right? Okay? Then in this one here, I'm going to maybe add just a tiny bit more paint with the same movement. Don't think about it too much, just practice. How much paper do you have? It's endless, right? Okay, see how it's getting darker? Now on this one, I'm going to add just a little bit more paint. I'm going to just hang around for a while. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to cover it up again. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to add a little bit more paint until it's darker. See? So that's a value change right there with the same paint and the same air pressure and the same amount of paint on the trigger, but just staying in the box longer. See, that's one of the keys to doing fade and weathering is getting a really thin paint so it flows nice and doesn't speckle. And you can stay in the area and you can get in really close, okay? This is just a generic airbrush with a 25-year-old needle that it's the same needle. But it's clean. But I mean, it's showing a little bit of its age, and it doesn't perform like an upper end Iwata, but you know, when you get into the groove, I can do just about anything an Iwata can. I mean, you can't just go to an Iwata and expect to paint better if you don't practice, okay? So that's what you do, right, with an airbrush, is you learn to shoot as little paint as you can. Now, here's another thing you can do. You can go like this, fast, or you can go slow back and forth like this with less paint, see? Now here's another technique when you're painting a large surface, when you're going up and down and you're staying on the surface. You want to try to avoid this, like you stop at the upper stroke and the lower stroke, but this is what happens if you don't let off the paint on each end of the pass. Watch. See how it builds up? So in order to avoid that, you stop at the top like this, stop, back on, off, up, up. That just is muscle memory, right? That just comes with practice, right? I do this all the time. I practice. Like, in fact, if I'm going to paint a locomotive, or if I'm going to paint a locomotive, or I want to do panels on a box car, I start over here on a piece of scrap paper, and then I come in and get it nice so I know my paint is coming out nice. and then I come in. But in this case, it would be super faded white, right? And you just move it around like a pencil, see? It's all muscle memory, my friends. Practice, okay?